Sammy Edmund doesn't. He's a good man. He's the chief footy reporter for SEN. He's very busy at the moment.
Oh, he's got
Hello,
a few
Samuel.
topics.
Sammy, have we got you?
Kimbo,
Oh,
I'm so
we've got
glad
you.
you're on the line with me. Apologies. I was just distracted because I have to ask, are the rumours true? Like, social media's just lit up. You've got North Melbourne winning the premiership.
Boom, boom.
Bumfluff Benny is
Boom,
an
boom.
absolute flog. He said he's gone and put on social media. Do you disagree? I said they'll cause some big upsets. I went on out on a limb. I said they'll beat 3 top 8 sides from last year.
Well, all
Cool.
I remember going back to last year. Now, admittedly, they were the premier, but when Geelong absolutely dismantled Hawthorn down at the Cattery around this time last year in their first showing for 2023, as it was then, we all thought they would streak to back-to-back premierships and win every game by 10 goals. So I'm saying nothing other than to say we'll take the little wins at North Melbourne this year, I reckon. I did like the look, and he's been good all the way through the summer. Colby McKercher alongside Harry Sheasel on a back flank would whet the appetite of some North Melbourne members, I reckon.
Hey, who was rested today? We are going to cross and speak to Benny Waterworth from KO, who called the game. Who else was rested for North Melbourne today?
Look, they had only a couple of guys out. Zane Dursma sat out, but he's only a kid and a draft pick. I didn't attend the game myself, other than I did read that Collingwood had a dozen players out.
Yeah.
So make of that what you will. I think this game was always going to be more about North Melbourne than what it was about Collingwood, the little signs that I speak of. And I like Georgie Wardler only played a half as well. I did like Lockie Schultz, though, did some nice things from what I could see. Bobby Hill looks sharp. Finn McRae's one to watch this year, we know that. And the big Suvalaki, how many could he kick if North Melbourne make a prelim, as you say, Kimbo? I mean, he might...
I didn't say that.
Well, if he's at 71 last season, Sam, and this is going to be a high-flying North Melbourne now, according to Kim Dillon, he's got to be challenging not only the Coleman, but the ton.
Hey, I'm normally the smart ass, all right? Just pull it back, you two. Hey, let's jump into this. We've already spoken about Joel Smith. This is a serious matter. We've heard from, just so you know, by way of background, we've heard from Andrew Dillon, and we just had a listen prior to getting you on from Justin Quill, who's an independent solicitor, who was on with Gary and Tim. Where's this at the moment? Can you add anything to it? And a text has come through saying, how nervous would some of those players be that were on the receiving end of those text messages?
Assuming they're players on the other end.
Well, they are.
Well,
Assuming.
potentially very nervous, and you're right. There's a lot we don't know, Rooch. So assuming they are players that have been unveiled in some of these text messages, which we need to point out have led, you asked me where it sits, have led to the assertion that Joel Smith is up for trafficking or attempted trafficking. So 3 further anti-doping rule violations laid on his desk from SIA, Sports Integrity Australia. Now, Gerard Whateley had a professor on the line today. Her name just escapes me at the moment. But
no, I can tell you her name, Dr. Catherine Ordway.
Dr. Ordway, who's based in Canberra. I would have thought the most authoritative voice we've ever managed to snare on SEN on this subject. And I've got to admit, I was a bit taken aback because I think we all find ourselves wondering, well, how far is Sports Integrity Australia willing to go? Like, do a couple of text messages constitute enough of an urge for them to go to the 10th player on the list, the 15th player on the list, the 35th player on the list? How far down the rabbit hole are they willing to go? And a lot of people are prepared to say, pure speculation, of course, that maybe it starts and ends at Joel Smith. Well, listening to Professor Ordway, her opinion was that SIA are basically compelled now to go as far as they possibly can with this. New powers bestowed upon them going back to 2006, 2007, and that her belief was, and she's followed enough of these cases in elite level sport, they will go as far as they can with the text messages and the social media messaging and the WhatsApp messages and the phone calls and the voice messages as they possibly can. So to answer your question, if you're a player on that list, I reckon you'd be pretty nervous if you have been one to dabble in this sort of thing over the journey.
Well, Sammy, let's have a listen to Dr. Catherine Ordway.
Well, it's very serious indeed, because under the World Anti-Doping Code, which of course the AFL subscribes to, then multiple violations can, at worst case, lead to a life ban. So it's really serious that this has escalated the way it has.
All right, let's move on to Taron Thomas. His life's a mess at the moment.
Seriously, Sam, in view of the text messages and his postings on social media where he's quite eagerly declaring he would do it all again, what he has done, not what he's alleged to have done in his words, surely North Melbourne now call him in and say enough's enough.
Oh, no, I think he's running his race at North Melbourne. I don't think it matters whether it's 18 weeks, which has been obviously debated this week in the mainstream, whether it's 18 weeks or 8 weeks or 80 weeks at North Melbourne.
But these text messages are enough to say that's it. You have really crossed the line now.
Oh, no, that's my point. Yeah, I don't think it matters what suspension that the AFL Commission deems suitable here. I don't think it matters for North Melbourne is my point. I think he's run his race at North Melbourne, and I would have thought across the competition. Now, some people will disagree with that. And some clubs are desperate and they'll see the talent there and maybe sometime will heal all wounds. I had this debate with Gary and Tim a couple of days ago. I mean, there were some clubs 6 months, going back to last trade period, who seriously debated trading for Taron Thomas in the last window, and they deemed it too big of a risk then.
Absolutely.
I think of 2 or 3 clubs. Now we know what we know. It's no secret. This guy's not a problem gambler, and not to downplay problem gambling, but his issues are far more severe than that.
Yep.
Clubs are going eyes wide open. No one complete ignorance on this. They have female, a large portion of their membership base are female. They have female corporate partners. They have female board members.
Female teams.
Indeed. So if Taron Thomas is to be recruited by a club, it is the definition of risk. And if he is to transgress again, which you would say, in all likelihood, that could very well happen. Then
he's saying he would. He's saying he would.
Yeah, well, yes, I know, as per the text he is. And the blowback on that club would be absolutely immense. I can't see that happening. You mentioned Andrew Dillon earlier. He said today there's still no timeline, but he did label it a complicated issue with potentially quite severe consequences. So regardless if it's 18, it's going to be a significant ban. We know that. And I think, look, to make an understatement of our cross this afternoon, his career is well and truly at the crossroads.
Stack of text coming through. This one says, "Hi guys, seriously, the AFL preaches about equality, sexist behaviour, etc., and yet still has Thomas on its books. Sack the guy. Simple as that. He shows no remorse." That's from Johnny K at Kensington. G'day, Johnny.
Well, it's actually very hard to sack a player. I think we need to make that clear as well, as per the AFLPA and the CBA guidelines and whatnot. So it's very hard for a player to be sacked. But look, I think he stays on the list for the remainder of the year. We don't know when he'll be eligible to play. And then I would have thought he'd be delisted and then, or not renewed as per his contract situation. And then, look, it'll be unfortunately added to the files of uber-talented players who have had their careers wasted.
All right, I want to talk. This is a story about 3 Sams. One's a gun reporter, one of the best in the world. That's you, Sammy. One's a superstar footballer. That's Sam Walsh. And the other one, just a little bit cray-cray, and is known to make a few outlandish comments. That's Sam McClure. Now, Sam McClure saying Carlton should be favourites for the premiership. Did I get that right? He did say that when I was on holidays, I think. But that won't happen if Sam Walsh is not playing. How bad is his back?
Yeah, I spoke to the Blues this afternoon. So they've ruled Sam Walsh out of Carlton's official pre-season game. And that's coming against Melbourne next Wednesday. We knew he was missing tomorrow's hit out against Geelong, and this is all due to back soreness. A nasty couple of words, if ever there was one, up there with navicular and stress fracture and all those sorts of things. So he's on a modified program at the moment. He's still running, though, so he's still quite mobile. Said to be, and I think a lot of people go back to this time last year, 12 months ago, when, of course, he could barely walk. He couldn't bend over. He had all sorts of back issues and ultimately had surgery, missed the first month of the season. He's said to be a world away from that. I think we need to point out. So Carlton are cautious. They are concerned. They're not panicking, though. So I think the next reassessment for Sam Walsh will be leading into opening round against the Brisbane Lions. The head of football, Brad Lloyd, released a statement a short time ago to state the bleeding obvious will take a no-risk approach with Sam's return to play. Therefore, he will not feature in the upcoming practice game. So, speaking of people there, as I say, they're concerned, but they're not panicking. It's nothing like he's a world away from last year. But gee whiz, if there's a player you want to get right, he finally had a good run at it too. He was flying over the pre-season after a non-existent pre-season last year. The Gary Ayres Award winner, of course, the reigning one, the player of the final series. So hopefully, for Carlton's sake and Sam Walsh's sake, it's a little tweak, a little hiccup, and he'll be back sooner rather than later.
Sam, you and I have lived the challenge of filling a back page of a major newspaper with a good sporting story. And we all know about number one draftees and the pressure they come into an AFL season when they have that title, the number one draft pick. But have you ever known a player to carry the burden that's clearly on Harley Reid? He's twice pictured, twice storied on the West Australian back page today. And I've lost count of how often he has been on their back page this summer. This is at the point of being ridiculous with Harley Reid and the West Australian at the moment.
Well, I know that Kane Corns is keeping count. I think when we were doing SEN breakfast, I think we'd gone north of 30 since he was drafted. Yes, on the back page or a presence therein.
He's there twice today. Twice.
Look, I'm not in Perth, but even on the other side of the country, I've got a fair grasp of the hype. So is it recency bias? Do they all cop it? Some people are willing to say that. Look, from afar, I think they get more and more hyped year upon year upon year. I mean, inevitably they are going to the poorest club. They're going to the club who's screaming out for positivity. When you go to one of those clubs that is in a two-team town and the big dog on campus, it's going to be heightened. So all those things go into the mix. We know he's going to be a special player. He's already proven that. So all these things have created, possibly, you're right here, Rich, the most hyped number one pick in history. It's quite extraordinary to see where it's got to in terms of his celebrity status already in Perth. And you just hope that doesn't affect the kid and he's able to block it out, because it looks like it's been absolutely extraordinary over there.
I hope so.
Stack of text coming through, boys. This one's directed your way, Sammy. It says, all these journalists in Melbourne were so focused on Adelaide's camp when they had these stories right under their nose in capital letters.
That's not true.
Well, just reading it, Rooch. Another one here.
Camp's 2018. These are last 12 months.
What about this one, Rich?
Wow.
Talking about drug use, and we don't say this flippantly.
Nor should we.
No one's immune. Even radio presenters likely partake in recreational drugs. Do we even know what Rucci's mountains are made of over in Italy?
Oh, come on.
I just read them, Rooch. Hey, Sammy, question without notice. Who's had the worst pre-season in terms of bad luck, injuries? The Hawks are getting a few lately. We know Melbourne's got a stack of forwards out. Who's had a really rough pre-season?
Geez, I reckon the Hawks have had a rough pre-season.
Yeah.
I mean, their coach was on his deathbed over there in New York, just trying to have a holiday. And then he's come back, and half his list has been wiped out with everything from glandular fever to hamstrings to what else has gone wrong down there? They've had all sorts of weird and wonderful injuries down there.
Yeah, they've had some knee recos the last couple of weeks.
Oh, turf toe as well, isn't there? Turf toe down there? Yeah, that's the other one.
Yep, had an operation for ligament damage around the big toe. So I reckon Hawthorn will be right up there. Clearly Melbourne are coming in with a fascinating backdrop in terms of how they can rebound from the Clayton Oliver situation. The Joel Smith story just continues to be the noose around their neck. And then you've got the Western Bulldogs, who we shouldn't forget either, who've had a pretty turbulent off-season.
Yeah. Hey, Sammy, always good to talk to you.
Wonderful.
Last question. What are you looking forward to most? We all love it when footy's about to get underway. What's got you really salivating for 2024?
Oh, those two clubs I mentioned, Melbourne and the Western Bulldogs, I've probably got my journo hat on here. I'm just fascinated to see how they go with all the uncertainty off the field, how they handle that coming in. I'm fascinated by the Blues as to what do you believe? Do you believe the car crash that was the first half of the season, or the roller coaster ride to the top in the second half? I just can't wait for it all to get underway, boys. And will opening round be something we fall in love with going forward? It's fair to say the court of public opinion hasn't been warm. I wonder how we'll go with round zero going forward.
Now, I know you don't like giving predictions. You try and steer away from them. But you have Port Adelaide and Adelaide playing finals.
I have Port Adelaide playing finals, and I think Adelaide definitely have a list to play finals. And I haven't had many friends with this, but I'm in the basket that Matty Nicks should have already been signed by now. So I'm clearly,
thank you.
God, good to hear. So I'm clearly in a believer that you just do the right thing and you look after your people if you think those people are the right people in charge. And I mean, that is, speaking of a roller coaster, he's just slowly cranking up, isn't he, up to the top of the summit there.
He has done all the hard work.
Yeah.
He deserves now to see this project through. So when you see Gary Lyon in the studio, make it known we are not happy.
Don't get someone to fight your own battles,
Well,
Rich.
I can't do it from here.
Come on, grow a set. Get on the phone, have a crack at him. Sammy, we love your work. We'll speak to you right throughout the season. Appreciate your time.
Good on you, boys. Speak to you soon.
Want Sammy Edmund to fight your fights for you, Rich, you pussy.